Muscatine's Vintage Sound, 93.1 FM, Tony Tone Show, and it is a busy week. Locally, it's homecoming week for the Muscatine Muskies, and in Iowa City, the Hawkeyes are getting ready for a big homecoming game on Saturday. Pre-game coverage heard right here at 9 a.m. before kickoff at 11, and one of the voices you hear each and every week delivering you Hawkeye football on the radio. He's on the phone right now. It's Gary Dolphin. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Tony. Good to be on with you. How are things in Muscatine?
Oh, they're fantastic. A little overcast. It's hooded sweatshirt weather. It feels finally like football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. Well, it's officially fall, so it's those warm temperatures, and hopefully plenty of rain is going to move out, and we're going to be replaced by some more legitimate football temperatures, I guess, like today.
When it comes to homecoming, Gary, I mean, you've been calling Hawkeye games for 20 years, which is an incredible achievement. Is homecoming special each and every year? Is there more pressure or what? How would you describe it?
No, it's special. It's really special because of all the alums that come back. One of my favorite pieces of the weekend is the alumni band. Some are in their 70s, some are in their 40s, some in their 20s, 30s. It crosses all genre, and they get out there and they just dance around. They have a heck of a time. It's kind of comical to watch them because obviously they don't have a chance to really practice. They all come in on Thursday or Friday. But there's alumni association meetings, there's National Light Club meetings, varsity club meetings. It really is the true essence of what college campus life was about, 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago. Homecoming is exactly that. It brings Hawks from all over the country, all over the world, really, back to Iowa City for a day or two of merriment and meetings and, renewing old friendships. And obviously, there's a football game to win. The players are pretty well, blinded out of it. They're focused on Northwestern and Northwestern only. They certainly understand what homecoming is, but they also know their day will come when they can come back as alums and former players and hopefully with their families and their kids and tailgate around Kinnick Stadium. So it really is a family reunion, to put it another way.
It's been a challenging week with the injury and the loss with Matt Vandenberg. I wonder, as you've watched these games, it's time for McCarron and Ashiel to step up. Do you think that the Hawks losing Vandenberg moving forward will be able to? And I understand that CJ is talented, but when you lose someone like that, and I know that they'll say that they can move forward, but how big of a loss is that?
It's a huge loss. You cannot underestimate a guy that's caught 106 passes in his career, including the great year 65 grabs last year, leading them this year with a trio of touchdown grabs. He's acrobatic. He runs great routes. He reminds me a lot of Eddie Hinkle. He's a more diminutive version of Ed Hinkle, but just a wonderful football player and a wonderful story. Nobody knew who Matt Vandenberg was when he came to Iowa. He walked on from South Dakota and earned that scholarship and proposed to his beautiful girlfriend a couple of weeks ago, and now to have this happen, it's just part of life, I guess. And you're never injury-free, Tony. You know what the game brings. It brings
Sure.
a lot of physicality, a lot of contact, and no amount of pads and helmet thickness are going to prevent injuries forever. And the oddity here was it was a non-contact drill. He's just running a route, and, he gets crossed up with one of the scout team members and planted the foot wrong. And so injuries happen from a variety of directions. But, that's done. Hopefully Matt gets back. Hopefully he gets a medical red shirt if that's what he desires. Mm-hmm. But now you're right. It is time for Jay Shield. Riley McCarron's had a solid year, but he can be more productive now. It's time for Dominic Smith to figure it out. These guys have been here a couple of years now. Granted, Jay Shield's been injured a lot, and so he's just rounding into shape because he hasn't played in almost 3 years.
Wow!
But he has all the ability in the world. Now the good news is they get Jonathan Parker is back. He's practicing full speed, and he's got jet quickness. So hopefully he can contribute starting on Saturday. Obviously, the tight ends are going to have to be more involved. John Wisniewski, the kid they've been high on since they recruited him out of West Des Moines, is back now and perhaps can give George Kittle an extra hand, literally. And then clearly, the bulwark, though, is going to fall on McCarron, on Germanique, on Shield, the guys that have been out there and running around, and obviously George Kittle. Now, I will tell you that Akram Wadley is a heck of a pass catcher, and so is Derek Mitchell.
Sure.
Now, they're both running backs, so don't be surprised if you see Wadley flare out. LaShawn Daniels becomes the primary back, and both guys are on the field at the same time. And I love what Derek Mitchell brings to the table. He might be their best pass-catching back at Iowa in some time. Now, he's 215, 20 pounds. He's not going to run away from anybody. But at least he's another threat out there. And so Northwestern knows what's coming. I mean, they're going to try and get after CJ. They're going to blitz. Disrespect the passing game until somebody figures it out and steps up and replaces Vandenberg.
And selfishly, we'd love to see Drake Kulik get in the mix a little bit more. Muscatine guy that talk about work ethic. Geez Louise, that's a guy that, his story. Muskie head football coach Jake Mueller joins me each week. He can't share that story enough with his young players at the high school level. And seeing Drake out there on special teams is real special for us. With the success that he's had. Homecoming, also, yourself and Eddie Podolak, 20 years together. You told me this in an email. I just want to touch on it briefly. You guys get to do something pretty cool this weekend, right? Outside of calling the game.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not one for parades. I love to watch them, don't get me wrong, but rarely are Pody and I asked to be parade marshals, but through some last-minute circumstances, the Jardine family, the owners of the Heartland Trucking Company, have been great supporters of the university down through the years. Russ and Ann, sadly, Russ passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. They had the lead gift for the Hope Lodge, which sits next to Carver. They built the building has their name on it, the Jardine Academic Learning Center, for all 700 Iowa athletes, and so they've donated millions to the university, and the Jardine family was to have been the parade marshals this weekend, but unfortunately they've had somebody in the family that needs to go through a bone marrow transplant up at Mayo, and so they'll all be up there, and we certainly understand that. So Pody and I are going to try and do our best to fill in for the great name of the Jardines and add a little flair to the homecoming parade on Friday night. So it's through downtown Iowa City. I've never been in the parade. I've certainly watched it a time or two. Pody has been a parade marshal on 2 other occasions years ago, so he knows the routine pretty good. But we'll wave and throw M&Ms and suckers and should be a lot of fun.
Oh, I can't wait for that. It's fantastic. I want to touch on the Rutgers game for a second. This it seems like Kirk was a little fired up in the post game and dealing with some penalties and the chop block, and I wonder, from your perspective, has this season has the officiating, are they scrutinizing plays more, or are they whistle happy? And I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but it certainly seems like there have been a lot of penalties, Gary, called early in the season.
Yeah, I don't know if they're whistle happy, Tony. I think what you're referring to is, we'll take LaShawn Daniels for example. He's had 2 carries now, one in each the Rutgers and North Dakota State game the last 2 weeks that were called back, one of 63 yards and one of 70 whatever yards. So it's about 145 yards in carries, the 2 carries that he's been denied, and one of those a touchdown last week. The other one certainly would have been a touchdown. They would have had first and goal at the 3 against North Dakota State, and then they're up 21-7, and I don't think the Bison come back from that 2-touchdown deficit, given the way they play. But the one last week was huge. One was called, the North Dakota State infraction was on George Kittle for holding. Okay. Last week was a cut block charge on Ike Botker, which, if you interpret the new rule, Ike was certainly legal in what he did. He had his helmet in front of the guy. The guy was not out of the tackle box. He took one step, and Ike knocked him down. Sadly, both penalties, I think what Kirk's bone of contention is, both penalties, the flags were thrown away from the play.
Right.
After the key players had vacated the line of scrimmage. And so I think a judgment on when the flag was thrown, but certainly Kirk didn't have any beef with the holding penalty, but he certainly had a lot to say about the cut block, because they've restructured or reverbalized the rule 3 or 4 times over the last 5 or 6 years on what exactly is a cut block. So you're putting a lot of pressure on the officials. what do they see at a blink of an eye, and should they throw the flag? And so Kirk's point is, let's get one definitive explanation as to what defines a cut block, and then stick to it. But they keep shading it or crowding it with additional angles and verbiage that probably has the officials a little bit confused in what they're seeing.
And it can be so tough, to practice and to know that what you're doing is right as a player, but then get penalized for it, but then have to recover from that and kind of shake it off. I mean, it's certainly easier said than done, and I can understand the frustration. Well, listen, Gary Dolphin, Iowa Hawkeye football, it's homecoming. Hawks take on Northwestern, who enters the game with a record of 1-3. We certainly don't take Northwestern lightly in Iowa City, and with all the hoopla that is homecoming, the Hawks would love to go to 4-1 and continue a successful run in the Big Ten. It's going to be another exciting season, Gary, and we're just thrilled to be an affiliate in Muscatine and to listen each and every week to Eddie and yourself. The coverage is top notch, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it, Tony. I want to conclude and go back to Drake Kulik, if I could, for a minute.
Sure.
Drake and Brady Ross, I don't want to leave him out, have been alternating. Drake came in as a linebacker, and not unlike several other Iowa fullbacks of the past. And I'm glad you brought him up, because one of the glaring vacancies coming into this year was who's going to replace Macon Plevin, Adam Cox. They were so critical last year to protecting C.J. Beathard. And both young guys struggled early, on blitz reads and blitz pickups, as did Akram Wadley, but they're getting it down now. Brady had a nice catch in the flat last week for 6 yards. And I look for Drake and Brady to become more involved in terms of getting the football. Right now, their sole responsibility, and rightfully so, is to protect, in my mind, the best quarterback in the Big Ten, and he's doing a great job. And so, if they continue to improve like they have been, things will be just fine. And because Northwestern and teams going forward are going to blitz the heck out of CJ and try to get to him, especially with Vandenberg out of there.
Sure.
And so, Drake Kulik and Brady Ross become more effective or more focal points going forward, and I think they'll answer the bell. But appreciate you having me on, Tony, and we love Muskie country down there. They got a good football program going, and I have a lot of friends down there, so we'll visit anytime you want to.
Well, I tell you what, Brian Musell's having fun doing games on the radio and watching his youngest play his last year of Muskie football, and Alfonso Soko, this running back we have, incredibly talented, and then looking forward with basketball, Joe Wieskamp, who's already verbally committed to Iowa. It's a good time to be a Muskie, as well as it's a good time to be a Hawkeye. So, Dolph, I appreciate it, buddy. You bet. The present and future look bright where Muscatine's concerned, and obviously I can't talk about those guys till they sign on the dotted line. But let me just say that both Kirk Ferentz and Fran McCaffrey are very, very proud and excited about the purple and gold that might make their way to Iowa City here in the next year or two. All right? All right, Dolph.
See you, Tony.
I appreciate it. Take care, man. Be well. Bye.